Good morning, everyone. So my name is Aiza Anis Alia, and today my group and I will be presenting about our research, which is examining Generation X acceptance towards self-service technology in the F&B industry. So without further ado, let me introduce my team members on the next slide. Moving on to introduction. Self-service technology is an interface that allows customers to conduct the service by themselves without direct interaction with service employees. Many kinds of SST applications are available in various industries, ranging from simple interactive voice-based services and interactive point-of-sale devices to internet-based services. In Malaysia, the implementation of SST started in 1981 when Maybank introduced its first automated teller machine, ATM. Since then, SST can be found slowly across other countries in Malaysia, including in the F&B industry. In today's digital age, self-service technology has become increasingly prevalent across various industries, including the food and beverage sector. Generation X customers born between the mid-1960s and early 1980s play a significant role in the consumer market, and understanding their acceptance and adoption of SST in the F&B industry holds substantial importance. The research examines the factors influencing Generation X customers' acceptance of SST in the F&B industry, focusing on perceived ease of use, technology anxiety, the complexity of SST, the need for human interaction, personal attitude, and social influences as critical determinants. Generation X individuals born between the early 1960s and late 1970s may have grown up with different exposure to and immersion in digital technologies than younger generations. They are part of the transition from traditional service models to self-service options in industries. Moreover, they may need to become more familiar with SST and find it challenging to navigate and operate these systems effectively, as they have established routines and preferences for traditional service delivery models. Furthermore, some individuals within Generation X, like those in any generation, may initially find it challenging to adapt to new self-service technologies due to unfamiliarity, technological literacy, or personal preferences. It can also be influenced by individual factors such as exposure to technology, prior experiences, willingness to learn, and personal attitude. Some individuals could have successfully embraced and integrated SST into their lives, while others may take time to become familiar with new technologies.
Moving on to the research objective, the first objective for this studies is to determine the extent of acceptance and experience of Generation X individuals in self-service technology in the food and beverage industry around Selangor. For the other objective, to determine the effect of perceived ease of use, complexity of SST, technology anxiety, need for human interaction, personal attitude, and social influence on the acceptance of Generation X towards self-service technology in the food and beverage industry around Selangor. For the research questions, we are looking for are there any relationship between perceived ease of use, complexity of SST, technology anxiety, need for human interaction, personal attitude, and social influence with the acceptance of Generation X towards self-service technology in the food and beverage industry around Selangor.
The significance of the study, why we choose Generation X as our research, is due to Generation X hold a unique societal position sandwiched between the baby boomers and millennials. Studying their acceptance of SST can provide valuable insights into how this generation perceives and engages with technology. Understanding their preferences, motivations, and barriers can help policymakers, marketers, and technology developers tailor their strategies and offering to meet the needs of Generation X better.
Hi, so continue with me, Naraina, and I would like to explain about the limitation of the study. The findings may need to be more generalizable to regions or countries with different cultural, economic, or social contexts. The other limitation is in terms of sample size and representativeness. The sample may need to be more diverse to capture the full range of perspective and opinion within the target demographic. The study may focus on specific variables or factors in influencing Generation X customers' acceptance of self-service technology, which is SST. Right, we're moving on to the next slide. This is about our theoretical framework on the acceptance of SST among Generation X. Our study explores the relationship between 6 independent variables and the dependent variable of acceptance. The dependent variable in our framework is acceptance of Generation X towards SST. It represents the willingness of Generation X individuals to adopt and use SST in various settings. The first independent variable is perceived ease of use, which is it measures how easily Generation X perceive they can interact with SST and complete tasks using the technology. We're moving on to the second independent variable, which is complexity of SST. This variable assesses the level of complexity or difficulty Generation X associates with using self-service technology. Our third independent variable is technology anxiety. This variable gauges the extent to which Generation X experience anxiety or discomfort when dealing with SST. Now, we explore to the fourth independent variable, which is need for human interactions. This variable measures the extent to which Generation X prefers human assistance over self-service technology. Next, our fifth independent variable is personal attitude. This variable assesses the overall attitude and dispositions of Generation X individuals towards adopting SST. And finally, the sixth independent variable is social influence. This variable examines the impact of social factors such as peer influence and social norms on Generation X acceptance of SST.
Okay, for the hypothesis, we are create 6 assumptions between variables. This includes on how perceived ease of use, complexity of SST, technology anxiety, need for human interaction, personal attitude, and social influence are positively related to the acceptance of SST among Generation X individuals in the restaurant industry in Selangor.
Continue the presentation with research design. Answering the 5W questions, this research purpose is to gain a comprehensive understanding of Generation X attitudes, behaviors, and preferences regarding the acceptance of SST. This research also aims to explore the acceptance of SST among Generation X, and it will be conducted in Selangor, Malaysia. We target Gen X through the quantitative research, which is online survey. We have chosen 2 different types of research. The first one is descriptive research through the survey questionnaires. The purpose is to truly investigate the link between an independent and dependent variable. Secondly, through exploratory research. In this research, we use a new angle from the research before. For instance, the previous research found that there are few factors that affect the acceptance of SST among all generations, so we decide to minimize the scope of the study by focusing only for Gen X. For the sampling design, the target population would be Gen X in Selangor because of the lacking information and limited exposure to technological conveniences. Size of the respondents would be 100 to 200 respondents around Selangor region. Sampling frame include customers that age between 40 to 55 years old, and we use the non-probability sampling, involve judgmental sampling, and snowball sampling in the sampling technique.
In the provided data collection section, 2 primary data collection methods are discussed. The first one is surveys and questionnaire measurement. Let's summarize the key points for each method and the variable used in the questionnaire. The first one is survey. Surveys are used to collect data from a large number of people and can be cost-effective way to gather information. For the advantages, survey can reach a large number of people, save time and money, and provide credible information. For the advantages, a survey can be biased if questions are not carefully worded or the sample is not representative and not everyone invited to participate may complete the survey. So, this method involves administering a questionnaire to gather data on specific variables. The variables and their respective items and statements are used to assess factors related to perceived ease of use, complexity of self-service technology, technology anxiety, need for human interaction, personal attitudes, social influence and acceptance of self-service technology among different generations. It is important to note that the data collection sources for each variable are also provided, such as research papers and journals. Both surveys and questionnaire measures are valuable data collection tools and can provide researchers with insights into various aspects of users' experience and attitudes towards self-service technology and related services.
Continue with the data preparation for this research. Right after we are collecting the data, we did this data coding where we change the textual data into numerical values. For example, instead of using strongly disagree, we replace it as 1. For the missing data, we use the univariate statistics to detect any missing data collected. The result shows that only 118 over 130 of them have completed all of our questionnaire from the research, which reflect 9.2% of missing percentage that makes the survey valid and dependable. For test of normality, we used Shapiro-Wilk test and found that the result did not significantly violate the assumption of normality.
Okay, for gender, according to this result, women make up 58.5% of the sample, which represents the majority of the study's response. Male respondents, on the other hand, made up 32.3% of the sample. For the age, 66 respondents or 50.8% of the sample. This suggests that a sizable percentage of respondents are between the ages of 43 to 48. Lastly, this age group is represented by 15 respondents or 11.5% of the total. This suggests that a lesser but still significant percentage of respondents are between the ages of 55 to 58. Okay, for the occupation, this result reveals light on the wide range of occupations among the study's respondents. The distribution includes people with a range of jobs, including retirees, freelancers, business owners, and people with their job, with other jobs, and those employed in both private and public sectors. A total of 3 respondents, or 2.3% of the sample as a whole, identified as retirees. The private sector includes the small businesses to large enterprises that are privately owned and operated. The majority of the respondents, which is 43%, indicated they were employed by the government. Okay, for the educational background, this finding provides light on a wide range of educational backgrounds of the study's respondents. A master's degree was mentioned by 5 respondents or 3.8% of the entire sample. 54 respondents or 41.5% of the sample said that they have a degree as their highest level of school. Okay, for race, Malay responded from the majority of the sample, with minor proportion of Chinese, Indian, and people of other ethnic background following. 101 respondents, or 77.7% of the entire sample, identified as Malay, making up the largest proportion of the respondents. 6% of the sample, or 9 respondents, identified as Chinese, and 5% of the sample, or 7 respondents, identified as Indian. 0.8% of the sample falls under this other group. For marital status, 37 respondents or 20.8% of the sample state they were single based on the demographic information. Following with 87 respondents, the majority of the respondents claimed to be married. This individual make up 66.9% of the sample. A total of 5 respondents or 3.8% of the sample mentioned having been divorced. This result highlights the ethnic variety of the study's respondents.
Based on the descriptive statistics table above, the highest mean value for the variable of perceived ease of use is 3.839. Analyzing the results, it is clear most respondents agree on the statement of "I find the self-service technology to be easy to use." Based on the descriptive statistics above, the highest mean value for the variable of complexity of self-service technology is 3.0932. That represents the statement of I hesitate to use self-service technology for fear of making mistakes that I cannot correct. Referring to the descriptive statistics above, the highest mean value for the variable of technology anxiety is 3.9322, which refers to the statement of I am confident that I can learn related skills about SST. Based on the descriptive statistics provided above, the highest mean value for the variable of need for human interaction is 3.9322. It refers to the statement of I am confident I can learn related skills about self-service technology. Based on the data displayed above, the highest mean value for the variable of personal attitude is 3.8136. The mean value refers to the statement of my assessment of the use of SST in the restaurant is positive. Referring to the descriptive statistics above, the highest mean value for the variable of social influences is 3.5678. The mean value refers to two statements, which are people who are more important to me think that I should use SST, and people whose opinions that I value prefer that I use self-service technology. Based on the data shown above, the highest mean value for the dependent variable of acceptance of generation X is 3.9407. The mean value refers to the statement of there is a high probability that I will use SST in the future.
Moving on to the validity of the research conducted, a sample of 130 among Generation X was randomly selected to participate in the study. Data were collected by using self-administered questionnaire that included skills to measure their variables. The response was scored on a Likert scale, ranging from 1, which strongly disagree, to 5, strongly agree. The data were analyzed using various statistical techniques, including reliability analysis and correlation analysis, to assess the internal consistency and constructability of the measurement skills. Move to the result of reliability coefficient, which convert alpha. It provides information about the internal consistency of the measurement skills. Higher values indicate stronger internal consistency, which means that the item within each skill consistently measure the intended construct. The high reliability coefficient for most skills, which perceivers of use, complexity of SST, personal attitudes, and social influences, suggests that the items within these skills are reliable in assessing their respective constructs. However, the technology anxiety and need for human interaction skills may benefit from further evaluation to enhance their reliability.
Referring to R-square, it shows 72% of independent variables which are perceived of use, complexity of SST, technology anxiety, needs for human interaction, personal attitudes, and social influences. The other 28% come from other variables, which are the dependent variables that represent the acceptance of Generation X to self-service technology. Besides, the F value is shown in ANOVA analysis. This statistic can help to test the variables. A test of significance for the full regression can be described as F statistic. According to the ANOVA, the p-value is 0.000001, which is significant. So, the hypotheses of these variables are correct. According to the coefficient table above, the independent variables and dependent variables are linked. The independent factors include perceived of use, complexity of SST, technology anxiety, and desire of human contact, personal attitude, and social influence. Whereas the dependent variable is the acceptance of Generation X towards SST. Since the p-value is less than 0.05, social influence are important to the dependent variable. This demonstrates that social influence are the most essential factor influencing Generation X adoption of SST. Perceived of use, complexity of SST, technology anxiety, and need for human interaction and personal attitude are not significant to the dependent variable due to the p-value being more than 0.05.
So now you're back with me and I would like to explain about reliability analysis. Based on the table, all factors including independent variables were found to be reliable as the results as shown are above 0.7. The variables relate to perceived ease of use, complexity of self-service technology, personal attitude and social influence demonstrate good to excellent internal consistency with Cronbach alpha 0.844 and above. However, the variables of technology anxiety with Cronbach alpha 0.729 and the need for human interaction 0.709 show slightly lower levels of internal consistency, indicating some variability or measurement error.
Next, for correlation analysis, based on the table above, it was found that perceived ease of use with personal attitudes and social influences has a significant positive relationship. This implies that when SST is perceived as convenient and user-friendly, it enhances positive personal attitudes and increases the impact of social influences, leading to a higher acceptance toward SST. Moreover, complexity of SST with technology anxiety and need for human interaction also shows a significant result. This indicates that when SST is perceived as complicated, it can lead to increased anxiety among Generation X when engaging with such technologies. Related to the result before, technology anxiety and need for human interaction has a significant influence to each other, as when individuals feel anxious about using technology, they are more likely to seek human assistance to alleviate their anxiety. Last result for positive correlation is between personal attitude and social influence. This indicates that personal attitude play a role in shaping Generation X individuals' acceptance of SST, and these attitudes are influenced by social factors such as recommendations, opinions, or social norms. When individuals have positive personal attitudes, they are more receptive to the influence of others in adopting and accepting these technologies. There was a negative correlation between the variables of perceived ease of use and complexity of SST and personal attitude, technology anxiety with personal attitude, and need for human interaction with personal attitude. This indicates that perceptions of ease of use increase and perceptions of complexity, technology anxiety, or the need for human interaction increase. Personal attitudes toward SST tend to become less positive among Generation X individuals. However, it is noted that the negative correlation coefficient is relatively small, suggesting a weak relationship between the variables. Therefore, other factors beyond may also influence Generation X acceptance toward SST.
The research findings provide insights into the educational backgrounds and ethnic diversity of the study's respondents. The respondents have diverse educational backgrounds, ranging from SPM as the entry-level qualification to diploma, degree, and master's degrees. The majority of respondents have completed a degree as their highest level of education. Regarding ethnic diversity, Malay respondents constitute the largest proportion of the sample, followed by Chinese, Indian, and individuals from other ethnic backgrounds. A small percentage of respondents fall under the others category, likely referring to individuals from small ethnic groups or those of mixed race backgrounds. For perceived ease of use, the findings suggest that Generation X customers find SST user-friendly and convenient in their dining experiences. For complexity of SST, the finding indicates that Generation X individuals may have moderate concerns or uncertainties about the complexity of SST. For technology anxiety, the finding suggests that Generation X individuals have a positive outlook on acquiring technological skills and are open to embracing new technologies. For human need for human interaction, the finding implies that while they appreciate the convenience of self-service, they still value human interaction and seek a balance between technology and personal service. For personal attitude, the findings suggest that Generation X individuals perceive SST as beneficial and are inclined to adopt it in their dining experiences. For social influence, the findings suggest that while social influence plays a role in their acceptance of SST, Generation X individuals ultimately make independent decisions based on their own preferences and experiences.
So in conclusion, this research delved into the acceptance of self-service technology SST among Generation X customers in the food and beverage F&B industry, focusing on a case study conducted in Selangor, Malaysia. The regression coefficient derived from our analysis help us understand the direction and strength of each independent variable's influence on dependent variable. With a substantial sample size of 130 respondents who actively participate in our questionnaire, we gathered valuable data that allow us to explore the relationship between various independent variables and dependent variable of acceptance of SST. The respondents representing the Generation X cohort played a crucial role in our study, enabling us to draw meaningful conclusions about their attitudes and behavior towards self-service technology. Social influence and need of human interaction is significant to the dependent variable due to the p-value is less than 0.05. This is proof that both is most important variable affecting the acceptance of Generation X towards SST. Perceive of use, complexity of SST, technology anxiety, and personal attitude are not significant to the dependent variable due to the p-value being more than 0.05. So that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Last but not least, we recommend future research based on the 4 Ps. For the product, we recommend to investigate the impact of self-service technological features and function on the acceptance of Gen X customers. We also recommend future research to investigate the impact of pricing strategies on Gen X customers' acceptance of SST for the price. In terms of place, future research can investigate how the physical and digital atmospheres influence Gen X customer acceptance of SST. And then the last P, which is promotion, future research should consider the efficacy of advertising methods in persuading Generation X customers to use SST. That is all from our group. Thank you and have a nice day.